What's going on, guys? So today we're going to take a look at Gamdias' all-in-one cooler, which is their Chione M1A 240R. Let's go over all the good things about it, how much it costs, and generally how the performance is. Coming right up. So as I mentioned, we're going to take a look at Gamdias' all-in-one cooler, more specifically the 240mm one that comes in the box with RGB fans as well. Now, for those of you guys who are not familiar with Gamdias, I've done a couple videos on these guys from before, and you know, they're basically a pretty decent, I'd say mid-level or mid-tier gaming peripheral manufacturer. They do have some stuff that are pretty expensive, but they make, you know, power supplies, they make headphones, they make coolers, obviously. They make keyboard, mice, gaming mats, all kinds of stuff, even gaming chairs that go upwards of $400 or $500. One of the biggest things that you'll see with all of Gamdias' products is they like to include RGB lighting inside it, which is pretty cool. You know, nowadays it's really popular, and it's kind of, I mean, it's pretty uncommon to see someone who doesn't have RGB lighting inside their gaming build. So the Chione M1A 240R. This is Gamdias' all-in-one cooler. It is a 240mm cooler with two 120mm fans. Each fan is separately connected to the radiator. Now in the box, unfortunately, this does not come connected to the actual radiator itself. It's separate, which kind of adds a little bit of an extra step right before you're ready to go ahead and install the radiator into your rig. The fans, however, do have dual layer LED lighting, which means that there is not just LED lights on one side of it, but there's on the other side of it as well. So if your fans are sitting towards the front of your case and you have, let's say, tempered glass on the front, you'll actually be able to see it no matter how you have the fan facing. So whether it's flipped inside out, if you're doing like a pull in or a push out type method of your build, you'll be able to see the LED lighting either direction. Now inside the box, one common thing that we're starting to see with some of these coolers that come with the RGB fan is they like to include their own proprietary little fan box control module, essentially. And in this case, Gamdias has shipped one that goes by the name of AIO 2. Now essentially this gives you the ability to connect up to 8 different RGB fans onto that box and control them through that singular hub. What's unfortunate, however, is that they are proprietary connections, meaning that you can't take, you know, another case fan or another RGB fan that you might have lying around from a different brand, let's say, and connect it to that so that you can synchronize it. But nonetheless, it's a good way to keep cable management pretty clean. The box itself also has magnets on it so that it can connect anywhere inside your chassis to keep things neat and organized. Now, installing the cooler was pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. If you have any experience installing all-in-one coolers, this shouldn't be anything different than any one of those. The only thing I would say to watch out for is to make sure that you pay attention to the included instruction manual inside the box, because you do have to connect, you know, the actual mounting bracket to the CPU block before you put it onto your actual CPU. For AMD boards, you just have to connect that one. If you have an Intel-based system, you're going to have to put a new support bracket on the bottom, which also comes included in the package. Now, another nice thing that they did go ahead and include in the package is thermal paste. Most all-in-one coolers come with thermal paste pre-applied. Gamdias took it one step further by giving you a little tube that you can go ahead and apply it by yourself if you're comfortable doing that. So out of the box, this cooler will support RGB headers that are on boards manufactured by Asus, MSI, or even Gigabyte. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't use this with any motherboard. There's no restriction like that. This is just specific to the color control scheme that you'd like to do or pair with your motherboard in that case. I decided not to go ahead and pair it with mine. I actually like the color scheme that comes out of the box. Their rainbow color thing, you can actually see it right behind me, but I thought that was a lot better. Now, I decided to do this because I was currently using an EVGA CLC2 80mm cooler, and it works really, really good. So I'm not going to talk about the performance of the EVGA cooler, but for reference, I had no cooling issues, and that wasn't the reason why I decided to go ahead and get this cooler specifically. I was looking more into getting more RGB lighting inside my rig, and when I did a quick search on Google to see what other options I had, it really just came out with Thermaltake, and Corsair's has a couple of them, but you kind of have to like build your own. You know, you'd get a radiator separately and get the fan separately to kind of match them. There isn't too many options that have good RGB lighting and different schemes on them that are also competitively priced. This cooler specifically comes in at less than $100, and you're getting 2 RGB fans with the box included. And it's not only just the fans that are RGB, but the actual CPU block itself also has RGB, which is really, really nice. I think overall the look of this looks way better than my system used to look before that. My radiator was more or less top mounted, and now I've decided to put my radiator front mounted so that it's more visible, like you guys can see how the lighting scheme of it works particularly pretty well. So among other things included in the box, you do get a remote to control the lighting scheme and the fan speed, the brightness, all the different kinds of settings that you would expect that you'd probably do on a software. You get to do it via a remote. Now this could be a pro, this could be a con. It kind of just depends on, you know, it's basically subjective. I'd say it's subjective. For me, I have a bunch of remotes, so the fact that I have another one is kind of like it's cluttering up my desk because I have LED lights everywhere and they all are different. So another remote is kind of inconvenient. I wish they would have had a software that would allow me to control the exact same thing that I'm doing via the remote, but unfortunately with this, in that case, they don't. However, this does function really, really well. You can even have it sync straight to your motherboard if there's a button on there that has the motherboard option, and that allows you to sync directly to your motherboard if you choose to do that. You've got your standard colors that you can decide to use. If you want to go with a red, a green, white, or blue, it'll just go and make that color pretty much standard. So this is what you're going to use to change all the different settings of your actual cooler. Now, performance wise, I've done a couple of testing, so I want to show you guys what that kind of plays out to be. We're going to hop over into the computer and just go ahead and take a look at how it performs when we use a stock version of my CPU, not running with an overclock, and then we'll go ahead and overclock my CPU and then see how the performance stacks up in that. I'm not going to be comparing this to my previous coolers. The point of this video is just to show you that how this cooling performance stacks up against itself, essentially. What kind of temperatures are we looking that are acceptable? If this keeps your CPU pretty cool under an overclock and at stock temperatures, and you're able to game without having high temperatures, then that's all you really need to be aware of, and that's pretty much all you need as a factor when you're deciding to purchase something. So let's go hop into that right now and let's follow up with that. Okay guys, so we're now entering the portion of where I want to show you guys the actual cooling performance of this. And right now my PC, it's been running for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. It's been sitting on idle. I do not have an overclock. This is a stock Ryzen 7 1700X, just 8 cores, 16 threads at the base 3.4 gigs. So as you can see, the temperature with the cooler on right now sitting at idle is around 31 degrees Celsius, and it's seen a max of 40 where I may have gotten some occasional kind of spikes in performance or utilization. So what we're going to do is we're going to run Cinebench R15. I find that this does a really good stress test on the CPU to see what kind of temperatures we see. And then afterwards, we'll also put an overclock. The max that my CPU, just based on, again, Silicon Lottery, can go up to is about 3.8. I don't really want to put a lot of voltage in this because I want my chip to actually last a longer time. So based on that logic of mine, I'll call it, I'm going to put this to 3.8 after this and see how the performance goes, and then we'll basically be able to see how good the cooling performance of this is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and click run. Results are in. Scored a 1231 CB. Not too shabby. I know you guys can see some of my older records here when I was at 3.85 and had a higher score. But overall, temperature max that we saw was at 52 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to quickly reboot my computer, put a minimal overclock on this, and then we'll give it a test again, and let's see how it goes from there. All right, guys, we are back. As you can see, I have gone and implemented the overclock at 3.8 gigs at this point. We are just back from a restart. I don't know why it kind of peaked over there, but already you can see that just sitting on idle, my temperatures are floating anywhere between, looks like 40. Again, I just restarted the computer, so a couple of processes that just go as part of my startup probably are what driving this. But looking at utilization, I mean, it's pretty low right now. So we'll go ahead and run the test again and let's see how it performs. Let's just go ahead and do it now. All right, so immediately you can see it's gone up into the 60s now, 60, 61. Again, still not bad at all, 60 degrees. As long as you're under like 80
or 90, this really isn't, you know, bad. And in my experience so far, most all-in-one coolers do a really decent job. It's only when you're trying to do like hardcore overclocking, where you want to push your chip to the max and try and keep it stable day in, day out, you know, 24/7 type deal, that's when you're going to need a really powerful one. The performance is in front of you guys. Let's go ahead and wind up from here.
So overall performance, as you guys saw, was pretty good all across the board. I have no complaints with the actual cooler in terms of cooling performance. I think they've done a good job. They've, even though the fact that the radiator is made with aluminum, which is a little bit lighter, I wish they had gone with copper or something else that gets better heat dissipation. Like the temperatures did go into the 60s, which is okay. You know, I would have expected it to be a little bit more aggressive given that it is a liquid cooling solution for your CPU. Nonetheless, I'm very satisfied with the performance of this. I think if you guys are looking to get a cooler for your rig that has, you know, RGB lighting in it, it's pretty compatible, pretty good amount of customizability that you can do with it. It's easy to set up in your PC and it offers good cable management. And again, one of the most important factors is that it's priced very competitively. At less than $100, you can find this either at Newegg or you can even find this on Best Buy's website. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description below where you guys can go ahead and pick one of these up if you are interested. I'll also link Gamdias' official website so that those of you guys who are unaware of Gamdias can go and check out their stuff. They're, like I mentioned before, they're pretty good. They do have a bunch of different gaming peripherals that I think really add a lot of value, and you know, just based on price, they're priced very well. It's not like some cheap Chinese knockoff kind of stuff. They make good quality stuff at good prices as well. But overall, that pretty much just sums up what I have to share with you guys about this. Interesting fact, if you're still watching, Chione actually is Greek for the goddess of snow. And I thought that was really clever that Gamdias decided to use, you know, that kind of naming convention for an actual cooler. And if you guys know anything about Gamdias or follow the website, they use all kinds of Greek names for all their products, like Achilles, they have Hermes, they have Ares, and now obviously they have Chione. So it's really nice that they're doing stuff like that. It was kind of like subtle clues of what a product is supposed to be just if you look at the name. But nonetheless, price-wise, it's great if you guys are in the market for an RGB cooler that you're looking for your CPU that does adequate, an adequate job at cooling and is priced competitively and gives you RGB with customization options. Look no further, the Chione M1A 240R is the one for you. I've got links in the description below if you're interested in purchasing it. And other than that, guys, if you like my content, go and hit that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, because you know it does absolutely help my channel grow. Until then, I will see all of you beautiful smiling people in my next video. Take care.